Welcome to MacYak episode number 160 for March 17th, 2022. It's good to be here. What are you guys up to?
Well, not a whole lot. I just did a video the other day, live, but nobody showed up. But apparently, I was told a lot of wrong information. So
I was there.
We won't go that way.
Well, I will confess that at the beginning of that video, I gave you a bum steer on how to open the floppy drive compartment, and I'll wear that. But everything else I said to you was 100% truth.
Yeah, but
Just
apparently,
blame Bruce and move on. That's what we all do.
All right, that's about pretty much all I've done this past week.
Did I do anything?
When
You never do anything.
When you gotta ask us, it's bad.
I feel like you did, but having said that, I've been watching some of your old videos, so maybe that's why I feel that way.
Yeah.
Oh, you wrote something, didn't you? Haven't you any writing thing in response to something?
That's later on. Bruce.
I haven't published it yet because it's a bit harsh.
Okay.
According to my wife, publishing that would not be a good idea. So I need to calm down for a day and
Tone it down
take a little look at it.
But we're going to talk about it later, right?
Cheers, everybody. I don't have any booze, but cheers.
Next serving. So that's been my joy for 24 hours. So I, within a relatively short span of time,
Has it been a joy? Has it really been a joy?
It's been an adventure. So I within a very short span of time, within a span of time about sort of a few hours, I got hold of an Xserve G5 and an Xserve Intel and an Xserve RAID. But anyhow, I think that might be in the topics, isn't it? So
Yes,
I'll
it
leave
is.
all
Yeah.
that- so I'll leave all that till later. Yeah. Oh, hello.
I was playing around with the Macintosh SE30. I released that video last week. That's with the MacFX Clear case, so I'm happy to say that I've finally started that. That project was something that's just been sitting on the shelf for ages. But that looks like it'll be a lot of fun. So I know when I'll be able to save up the ungodly amount of money for that stupid compact power supply, but a few patrons joined, so maybe sooner rather than later.
Whoops.
Wait. Didn't you just buy something that was very expensive?
Yeah, but that's on a payment plan. I can afford that.
Oh, okay.
I can't afford anything else.
Okay.
You can't tell me that power supply requires a payment plan. Surely not.
No, that power supply, but it's like $300 or something ridiculous.
Whoa!
Yeah, at least the one that I was linked to by the same one that Sean got. Now,
Yeah, let's see if we can find you a better one.
And by searching on eBay, I could find a lot of them, but it's like finding one with the positive 5 volt and the negative 5 volt is the problem. There's a lot of ones
No,
like, oh yeah, that'll just, and then no, that doesn't fit. So
Okay, so you need to either, try and get a few of Sean's patrons. Help pay for it.
come on, guys. I
just take away all the tiers and start at $100 tier.
$100. All of my support would go down the toilet. That's okay.
So if Sean says he'll send them right over.
Yeah.
He's such a generous person, isn't he?
He'll send over a cursed amount of them.
And he's sitting there like, no, I won't. I'll send you the little ones.
Yeah, but that's the bottleneck. I mean, there's a few bottlenecks. It's going to be a whole project, and I don't expect anything to go right. So
Let's just assume 840 AV length. Duration of the project.
It'll be shorter than that because that'll be never ending. But yeah, so that's what I've been tinkering around with.
Happy St. Patrick's Day for yesterday for everyone.
For yesterday. Yes,
That's
or
right.
present time here in 3/4 of the MacYak universe.
Yeah. Should mention we do have a few missing tonight.
Yeah.
Mike, no show. Grudy probably thinks it's another day of the week.
No, I
actually,
messaged him
you missed a
and
message.
You know
I haven't-
when usually when you
we're just
have an
gonna
appointment
ignore
with
that.
someone
Ignore
and you're like, hey, let's meet up at 8 p.m. and it's it's 7:30. I don't think I'm gonna make it. I better message them. Not Grudy though. He will message at 8:05. Sorry, I can't make it. But
did we really expect anything different?
But here's his excuse this time. Customer's bike broke.
yeah,
Yeah, let's read all the personal information.
No, I'll just say a customer bike broke. So
but you know that's not true. He broke his own bike.
Exactly.
So
but I don't know. Maybe he'll show up later. I don't know.
Well, I'm wearing green for Marcintosh either way, so there you go. That's what we're doing. And I have Bruce will like this. I have a Macintosh 2 to clean up, so maybe I'll do a stream either today or tomorrow.
Oh, that's not. Yes, please. I will be watching that. Yes, thank you.
It has a very interesting battery situation. We'll just say that someone decided instead of AA batteries that C cell or D cell batteries were a better fit. It is a very interesting modification that they've asked me to write, so that will be a fun project.
And you're streaming after Maciac, right?
I don't think that's a good. Maybe tomorrow morning. I don't know.
Oh, come on! No. After Maciac could be good.
When Bruce wakes up, that's when.
Yeah. There's if you know someone with a 3D printer, I can send you through the STL file for a battery holder for the Mac 2.
Well, if I did the ones that I was going to do that you suggested, I have those. I have a whole baggie of those. We're just you cut it and replace it. I mean, it's 90% of the way. It's fine.
But what you can do is with this 3D printed one, it is actually a proper sized one, and then you just pull the bits of metal out of the ones you bought and pop them into the plastic, and it fits perfectly.
Well, I don't know anybody locally with a 3D printer, but we'll give the client the option.
I'm close to you, and I'm supposed to be coming there in April.
Did you hear the word locally? Come on.
Don't they have 3D printers in the library?
You could come up here before the live stream, right, Sean? You could just 3D print the file, and it'll take a few hours. Then you can drive up.
Well,
here.
he could send it the same way that Ken sends you stuff.
Yeah, just hopefully it doesn't bang me on the head.
So I'll just check here. So Steve, are we able to speak to you about your acquisition from today?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I haven't touched it yet.
Okay. What did you get?
Wait, what?
Oh, so I have to publicly shame RetroFox from my Discord server because they posted a Facebook Marketplace screenshot of an iMac that was I think it was $10 at the time, and it was only like a few towns over, so it was only 15 minutes away or whatever. And they said, "Oh, you should get this iMac," just as a joking type thing. And I was like, $10. I don't really need an iMac.
I think it was 5 actually.
Well, it was originally 10. And then they posted this morning, "Oh, look, it went down to 5."
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, well, it looked like an iMac G5, but I couldn't tell because the pictures were blurry, and the last model of the iMac G5 and the first Intel ones look very similar. So I took a look at the pictures and I said, well, let me message the guy and see if it's even available, because a lot of times people will post something and just never respond to it. So they posted it, and they eventually replied, and they said, "Yeah, you want to come pick it up?" I said, "Okay." So $5 and probably almost $5 in gas later, we have an iMac, but it's not what I expected. I expected a G5, but it's a 17-inch original revision iMac Intel. So it's a Core Duo. Now I had bought the 20-inch Core Duo when they first came out, so I have that, and I paid way too much for that, obviously. But it's interesting because now I have the 17-inch one, so not really much different I could do with it versus the G5. They're both sort of.
And can you tell me why you specifically wanted a G5?
Well, I originally wanted a G5, and maybe this one will still work because I have my brother's 17-inch G5, but it has a nasty scratch on the screen. Wherever I stored it on the shelf, something managed to just grab a nick in it there. And so because of that, I thought, oh, maybe I'll just get another 17-inch panel and replace it. Now, the Intel one may be the same one. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. The Intel one may be the same one. So who knows? Maybe I'll be able to swap it still. But I thought for $5, as it came with the power port too, and it turns on and everything. So it's probably just a dead hard drive or something.
But at least it's a prototype, right?
Yeah, obviously. I mean,
it better be. Steve's like, it better have some goodies on there, like Sean's did.
It was funny because I did the live text of the photo to the serial number, and I copied and pasted that in and tried to get the serial number for it, and it wasn't coming up. And I'm like, wait a second, that's weird. Why isn't the serial number coming up? And then I realized it thought that second character, which was a 6, was an 8, and I'm like, okay, that's why. But yeah, Sean, why don't you come over here and you'll put Linux on it? We'll only be here for about 8-9 hours.
Well, I mean, you can stick Windows on that one if you want to.
Yeah,
What is wrong with you, man?
See, Bruce is so burdened by the Xserve that's going on right now that he's just all sorts of crazy.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see if it actually turns on for a long amount of time. The guy said, "Yeah, it turns on. I see an Apple, and then it just sits there." So probably a dead hard drive or a bad OS install or something. But Sean is getting very dangerous ideas in his head right now.
Windows 95 on an iMac.
I don't do Windows, so somebody else has to do it for me. Oh, we all got buttons now. Look at
I put a button on.
I also have where is it? Very
I put my Mac 84 ones on. That's
Yeah,
all
well,
I have.
damn it. I had one ready and then I lost it. Well, there we go. Orb.
Oh, that reminds me that there's just a wonderful video.
Yes.
Who did it?
Colin, if this does not compute.
Yeah, this does not compute. If you haven't seen it, and if
I'll
you're
bring it
someone who worked in the, sort of perhaps in the graphics industry with Macs, it's a video on the history of removable media, really ultimately sort of starting with SciQuest. I mean, he started with earlier stuff than that, and then obviously looking at Zip and Jazz and Orb and all the different types of removable media, and it was fascinating. I mean, it was just so interesting because it wasn't just, hey, look at this. This is a Zip and this is a Jazz. It was like really talking about the history of the removable media and the successes and the terrible failures and stuff like that. So
yeah, so he goes into quite a good detail of all that stuff.
So I would highly recommend that if people watching haven't seen it, wait until our show is finished, of course, go and check that out.
No, go right now. So I've never heard of Orb. Where does it fall in the lineup? Is it better than Zip or?
Well, there was a lot of competitors, and the video touches on that. So the video may answer your question, but essentially, there were all these different things that they were trying. Orb was a competitor by
2.2.
Yeah, so this is I don't know where my button comes into play, but
gigabytes.
So if I remember the information in the video correctly, I believe Orb was set up by someone who left.
Yes, that's right.
He left Bernoulli. So Bernoulli was the company that, well, iAmega. So iAmega, they started off with making the Bernoulli drive, and then they made the Zip and the Jasna. And he left and then started up Orb as a competitor. But they were plagued with reliability issues, which didn't help. So they were having to refund money and all sorts of stuff like that.
So I guess nobody wanted to see their orbs. I guess.
Yes.
This is so stupid.
But it just seeing all those buttons there just gives you that indication of the kind of the marketing they were doing to try and make these things cool, to try and get people to buy them, because they wanted these things to be like the sort of the next cool thing. So,
oh yeah, and you have to think. I mean, the biggest problem, at least, I grew up with my father being in the graphics industry, and he had a zip disk drive and all that stuff. But the biggest problem for people who didn't use it was, now we need a separate drive because, I can't read floppies on the zip drive. So I need, a separate, which was fine because originally all those machines had built-in floppy drive. But when you got like the Power Macs and the iMacs, the blue and white ones and all that stuff, you didn't have a floppy drive built in. So at that point in time, it was like, okay, do I get a USB zip, or do I get a USB floppy, or do I get a super disk that allows you to do both, which is something that I'm going to try and resurrect. But all my drives seem to be very finicky, even with brand new damn disks. So
yeah, I mean, brand new is a relative term. I mean,
old brand new.
Yeah, that's right. They may have
sealed.
They've never been used, but they're certainly not new.
No, yeah, the drive is certainly old. So
yeah,
and I actually pulled one out of the box, and it still had problems.
I'm curious, Orb, is it like Laserdisc? Was it US only? Because the company I worked for had the vast majority of graphics companies as a client, and I've seen plenty of Zip. I've seen plenty of Jazz. Until just now, I never knew Orb existed.
Well, Orb never made it here to Australia. I knew of Orb, but I never knew anyone with an Orb. So they probably never made it to Europe either. So that could be the reason. But
from the video that Colin did, it seemed like it was just a flash in the pan.
Yeah.
So it sounds something like a Zune, right? Like was there and then
no, this is worse.
Yeah. The thing is that SideQuest basically used SideQuest was like a hard drive where the metal platter was removable. So it had, heads that, actual heads like a hard drive. And that actually meant that there was a fairly high risk to the media, if things didn't work out properly. Whereas the Bernoulli uses the Bernoulli principle, and it actually makes the disc hover in a little cushion of air. And what that meant was that the heads didn't crash. You didn't end up in a situation where if, something went wrong, if it got bumped or something like that, you didn't end up with the head hitting the surface of the disc. And so they were much, much more durable. And that technology was invented with the original Bernoulli drive. And then they repurposed it down into the zip media. And
this is Orb.
Wow. And Orb was using the same Bernoulli type technology. So Orb was kind of like another zip disk, really.
Never heard of Bernoulli either.
Yeah, well, Bernoulli was before Zip, so that was in the beige days that you love so much. But
yeah,
the interesting thing was obviously the platters of the hard disk were the cheapest part to make. So that's why a lot of these companies would put the reading mechanism, the head, inside of the drive, and then you'd only have the mechanism with the platter that was removable. Of course, that's how you get, problems with these media, because you're inserting them, and the Zip and Jazz were the same thing. You had the cartridge, where the Zip was more flexible material, I believe, but the Jazz disc at least was a hard type of a platter, like a hard disk. So you always had the risk of the head being misaligned slightly, or the click of death, which would be the floppy material inside of the Zip would get nicked or somehow damaged. And every drive you would put that in would either misalign the head or ding it or something, and you'd cause sort of this chaos that would go on. But
because the interesting thing with the SideQuest, for someone who's never used it, I mean, if you were using a SideQuest and then you're like, okay, I'm finished with it now, you eject the disc, you put it down to eject it, you would then press a little flat button in the front, which would start the thing spinning down, and then you would finally hear it like a click. And then there would be a lever that you would pull across to eject the disc. Now, if you pulled that lever across to eject the disc before it had finished spinning down, you could really destroy the disc and the drive. And the fact that it enabled you to do that, you kind of had to know how to use a SideQuest or you could destroy it. Whereas something like a Zip and even a Jazz, I mean, the Jazz was a physical hard platter, but it actually ejected the disc for you when it was done with it. So,
I remember my father being very, very adamant, because we did have a SideQuest drive, because I believe before we had Zips, that was how he would bring his stuff home, because it was like 44 meg capacity, 88 meg capacity on the later ones. Yeah. And I remember we were able to, me and my brothers had like pictures or drawings or whatever, and one of the applications made like little animations, but they were a little too big to fit on a floppy disk, so he let us use one of these. And I remember him pushing the button and hearing it wind down. He says, until the light goes green, you can't do the lever. Okay? But it is so satisfying to hear, like when you push that and he's like, and then you push it and it's like this big cartridge that comes out. I have a new drive that was like new old stock. I have to do a video on. That was fun.
We've turned this into the removable media show.
That's fine. That's perfectly fine.
It's not even in the notes.
No, that's right. Okay, all right.
So I guess we could go on to bash something that's fairly new, and that is Apple's expensive new Studio Display, which apparently has an awful camera. Now, I will say a lot of the reviews I've been reading about this, and I don't know if anybody else has been keeping up on them, but first off, I can't afford the damn thing, so I wasn't intending on purchasing it anyway. I have a perfectly fine display that I'm going to plug the damn Mac Studio into. But this display, it has the same panel as the iMac and all this stuff, and apparently the camera is, pretty good, but there's something wrong, at least Apple is claiming. This can be fixed in a software update, but the problem is, and I'm going to bring up the tweet here to show the comparison. The camera is, it's very washed out, and you're not getting, $1,400 worth of quality here from this camera, which is obviously a slap in the face for Apple. But
it does look like it's over compressed or something, so a software fix should be okay.
Yeah, I would hope. So if we go here. You can see the top left. I can't zoom it in, unfortunately, or crop it. But the top left there is a Studio Display, And then you could see the one right below that. That's the LG Ultrafine 5K display that Apple worked with LG on, and you could see that looks superior.
Yeah, I'm like, it looks.
The studio display looks like a MacBook Air 720p camera. There's faces all washed out. There's no details, etc.
720. That looks more like 480 almost.
Any money says it's exactly the same hardware inside them. It'll be exactly the same as in like a MacBook Pro or a phone or something like that. It'll be the same little camera. Yeah. So I'm sure that's something they'll be able to sort out.
I mean, the thing has a 13 chip in it or 15 chip, some chip in it. So obviously there must be updates. Hey, there must be updates and stuff to fix that. But it's a bit embarrassing to ship it out like that.
Yeah, it is a bit.
And
I like the fact that the MacBook Pro makes her look thinner. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, that's the camera I need.
What are you trying to say there, Bruce? You want something to make you look thinner?
Yeah. Can you make a recommendation? Sure. Yeah.
That's the LG Super Skin camera or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's the not eating all those hamburgers camera. That's what does it.
No, that's too expensive. We don't want that. Yeah.
Exactly. We can't not eat our hamburgers. Come on.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So I mean, I first off, I wasn't the market for this display. I think it's too pricey. Apparently, the image quality of the display is fine. The speakers, the microphone are fine.
Yeah.
But,
well, from what I understand, it's the same as the 5K iMac, 27-inch iMac, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's slightly brighter, or who knows?
Yeah, it was brighter. Yeah, it had more nits.
Oh,
we're nitpicking the nits.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you have money to burn and you want an Apple display to match your whatever Apple product, now you have something other than LG's machine or the Thunderbolt display that they used to sell like 11, 12 years ago.
You know what sucks about that is that you can't even use an old 27-inch iMac, anymore as a display because they turned that feature off when the Thunderbolt stuff started coming out.
No, they did not.
The newer ones that you can't use it as a secondary display. You can't.
Yes, but you have to be very specific. The 2011 ones you could still do target display mode.
2011, but that was not a 5K model though. That was
but we're not saying specific to 5K.
I'm saying 5K because
there you go. Now
if you use a 5K one, then you wouldn't have to buy one of those because you could have an old 5K and use that as a target display.
That was a feature that Apple really should have kept in because how many times have I'm talking to myself, you guys wouldn't know, but how many times I have talked to a friend and talked to them about the iMac or whatever, like, oh great, I can just plug my laptop into the screen too. I'm like, no, you would hope that, but no, that's not really how it works.
Yeah.
But
this is the same company that discontinued target disc mode. They're obviously insane.
I cannot disagree with you on that one, Jay. That's the target display mode on the 2010 iMac was apparently a little flaky. That was before Thunderbolt, but it worked. And then I had only used it once on my 2011 iMac when my wife got her MacBook Air, and I had like the one Thunderbolt cable in the house. I'm like, oh, I want to try it. And I'm like, oh, okay, it works. And I unplugged it. So
I was using. Yeah, I was using a 20. I think it was a 2009 iMac 27-inch, and those screens were actually pretty nice too. But I was using that on my Mac Pro for a while as a display.
Yeah,
and it worked. It worked good.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, the machine has to be on, so you're using the graphics or whatever part of that machine. There's a keyboard command you would do. But yeah, it's a little bit finicky. I think according to this article, the last one to support it was the mid 2014 iMac. So yeah, but from 2009 to 2014, all those models did support it via Mini DisplayPort or Thunderbolt, depending on the model. But so anything above mid 2014 or higher, you cannot use that with, which is a shame.
But all those had the same exact connector, which was the Mini DisplayPort connector, but it was Thunderbolt 2, I believe, right?
Thunderbolt 1 or Thunderbolt 2, depending on the year. Yeah. Okay. But I mean, that's something that I would like to see Apple bring back. I mean, why not? I mean, maybe it's a bit of a conflict because you're selling the 24-inch iMac with the computer and the 27-inch display without a computer for almost the same price, but the screen size is a bit of a difference.
Well, here's the thing. how hard would it be for them to bring it back into some of the older hardware? For instance, just with is it a software thing or is it a hardware thing?
That's a great question. I would assume while designing it, they would have to maybe, I'm not a hardware guy, but maybe they'd have to make some considerations into how the machine goes into a low power state while you're just using the display or whatever. I'll tell you, when I used it on my iMac, the iMac's fans were still, blowing out because it was.
Oh yeah.
It was, the machine was not slowing down.
I want to say it's hardware because you have to do a keystroke as you're booting it up. And
no, you could leave it on. You could just like.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you could beat it up, and then you just use the keystroke to switch the modes.
Thank you, Jeremy, for the super chat.
Oh, yes, thank you, Jeremy.
And you don't worry, you haven't missed much. You missed us talking about removable media, and now I don't know, what are we talking? We're talking about displays now.
Yes, yeah. We're loosely fitting this in.
Well, we kind of bashed the new Apple display because of the camera.
Let's not undersell this. The last 27 minutes were mind-blowingly fantastic.
It's so fantastic. You got to rewind it when we're done and watch it like at least 20 times over in a few different windows to get us lovely
at different speeds.
Yeah.
Claims may not be accurate.
Yeah, I mean, look, the display, apparently the panel is beautiful, which is great. But they have some things to iron out, which is fine. I think that,
there's no way they didn't notice this stupid filter plaster effect before they shipped it out.
Yeah, I have a feeling that this was a problem where it was all fine in development, and then they went to compile the final thing, and someone forgot to, make a change.
Well, I'm actually wondering if it was a slight change in the hardware at the very end, and they didn't test it with the software
revision or something.
Yeah. But now that the display has its own CPU, it has an M1 in it, right? Or
is a something. A13 or something.
Yeah.
If it's going to receive its own software / firmware updates.
Possibility.
I guess so.
Yeah,
I would think so.
Yeah, I think it's look. They're going to be making displays again. I guess that's cool. But it's not for me. So
I'm very happy with my 24-inch brandless piles of garbage. I can see you guys. I can read my email.
I will say
I have two 27-inch HPs here, so.
I will say that LG's 5K display was originally out of stock when they made this announcement, but on Mac Rumors they said it's actually they don't have the supply right now, but they will still be selling that. So if you want the previous best Apple collaboration in displays, LG's display, which doesn't have camera issues apparently, is cheaper, and apparently the same panel, just slightly less bright or whatever. But yeah,
hey, as with all of my Apple equipment, I expect I'll probably get one of those displays one day, secondhand.
Well, 12 years the thing, though. At least this display has a stand.
But the power cable is stuck in there. How stupid is that?
Well, that's the way it used to be on the old cinema displays too. I mean,
I know, but still, it's like
they had to go back to their roots.
I mean, if you want to. I mean, Apple doesn't care about fixing things or anything, but you'd think that for their own purposes of shipping a display to different countries that they would leave that socket there universal.
The problem is, and this is the problem that is happening with all of their devices, is that they are creating things so thin that there isn't room for conventional plug holes in them anymore. If you take your standard plug hole, the 3-prong one, like the ones for your other computers and for kettles and whatever else, they are quite deep, and these things just aren't deep enough to put something like that in. I mean, one of the examples of their desire for thinness, when you look at the new iMacs, those incredibly thin, colorful iMacs. This was something that I saw in one of the videos that I watched as the kind of the PRAM battery. They've had to use two CR2016s next to each other because the computer's too thin to have a single CR2032 in it. So rather than have one CR2032, they've spread out. So they've essentially squished the button cell battery into two thinner ones rather than having one thick one. And that's the level of kind of commitment to the thin that Apple has.
But it still has a non-replaceable PRAM battery, right?
Let's have a little poll here, an impromptu poll with our live chat and everybody. who wants their Apple desktops thinner?
We're
Exactly.
not even raising our hand.
Yeah,
I mean, I use a 2012 MacBook Pro 15-inch, and it is twice the thickness of the laptops that are around today. It really doesn't bother me.
Yeah, at least with the current generation of the MacBook Pros, Apple actually made them thicker, and the world didn't explode. So
well, that's because they had to put the MagSafe back on it.
Yeah,
they could have shown.
That was actually a really interesting point that when I was watching this video on the iMac, and I don't even remember who I was watching it. It's probably Snazzy Labs or someone like that. I'm not sure, but he was talking about how they have a magnetic power adapter on the back of them, but they're so stiff that you can still yank the thing off the table if the power cable gets a good tug. You can still yank that computer off the table. So it sort of fails a bit with in the way MagSafe is meant to work.
Well, I think one of the problems, and somebody said it in a chat here, it says the damn things are too light because they're making them so thin. There's no weight anymore to them. I mean,
I did see one in person, and I was playing around with it. It's not heavy, but it's also not light. It's that aluminium foot or aluminium. I'm sorry. It has a bit of heft to it, so it's really would be difficult for you to just just knock the damn thing over unless you have Grudy's dogs.
It's still way lighter than one of my 2000.
Of course,
11 I have sitting up here is it's the thick one, the one that you could actually still get into and replace stuff.
Oh, we don't need that anymore.
Yeah,
I think if I was to get one of those iMacs, one of the first things I would do is get some adhesive rubber for the bottom because it's very smooth on the bottom. So if you put that onto a smooth surface like a smooth table, it can slide backwards and forwards really, really easily. And so I think I would probably get some rubber so that it was a little bit more firm on the table.
Here's a better idea. Drill some holes in it and bolt it to the table.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea.
That does wonders for the warranty.
Back in the day, I had these third-party stands for iMac. They were round. You'd put them on your desk, put the iMac in, and then a lid would kind of enclose it, and it would keep it from A, being stolen, B, from sliding off your desk, and you could rotate it as needed. It's pretty nice. Yeah. I forgot the name of it.
I will never forget. We had in my high school, they had eMacs. And the art teacher was replacing some of them with the original reason that we got eMacs was apparently, if you got the iMacs, the kid was just push them over, which is great logic. And then 2 years later, they replaced them all with iMacs.
So Nick just answered a question to you, Bruce. Here, he says a grippy foot would probably make it worse. They're so top heavy, it would probably topple easier.
Okay, so drilling a hole in it is the way to go there. Yeah?
I'd say, Nick, the only way that we could solve this is somebody has to donate one to Bruce, and we'll figure it out for all of us. This
Absolutely.
Answers.
Accepting donations.
I know Bruce is still fairly new to this, but he keeps forgetting that he has a welder now. He can just add that thing to the desk and be done with it.
Yeah, I haven't welded aluminium yet, though, so we'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Oh, God. All right, well.
Code Professor, what are we donating? We're all donating an iMac to me, the latest model one. That's what everyone's donating. As
you can afford, just. So we'll keep the spotlight on Bruce because someone was silly enough to get some Xserve stuff into his computer recently. And are you regretting picking that up in your house yet, or?
Yeah. There are aspects of it that I don't regret, and there are aspects of it that I do regret. So, I'll quickly tell the story now. So, one of my sort of recapping customers, who is a regular and sends lots of work my way, he got hold of a great big batch of Xserves, and so anyhow, they're G5 ones, and I said, look, I would be interested in a G5 Xserve. So we did a deal, trading it in return for some recapping work. And he dropped that off to me yesterday morning. And at the same time, the company that I used to work for here, it's sort of a design studio that I used to work at 10, 15 years ago, something like that. they had upgraded their server. When I say upgraded, the company had kind of changed what they were doing, and so they didn't really need a great big server anymore. So they just started using a Mini as their main server, and they decommissioned an early 2008 Xserve, which is the Intel quad-core one, and an Xserve RAID. And anyhow, I said, look, if you don't want them, I'll take them. And he was just going to take them to e-waste. So, and I believe he took a whole bunch of stuff to e-waste lately, which I really would have loved to have looked at. But never mind. And I think there might have been a stack of magneto-optical media in it. But never mind. That's another story.
Stop saying never mind and then saying what it was.
But anyhow, so I said, yesterday I had a little window of opportunity because a meeting I was supposed to go to fell through. So I hopped in the car, went out there and grabbed the RAID and the Xserve, brought them all home yesterday and started having a bit of a play around. So the RAID has 7 250 gig drives in it with the sleds. And then the other side is just the empty filler sleds with, they're not real ones. And I can't get that to work at the moment. It's very rusty. It's kind of bizarre how rusty it is when it's been stored indoors in an office all the time.
You sure it wasn't like under the air conditioner or something?
No. I mean, I know that the person, where it has been stored, he doesn't use air conditioning very often. He pretty much, if it gets hot or whatever, he just opens a window. So it wouldn't have got that normal dry air-conditioned air in that office most of the time. It would have usually just had normal atmosphere type air. But I still wouldn't have thought it would be damp enough to create the sort of rust that it has on it. But, I gave it a good clean yesterday and everything. And when I plug it in, the power supplies come on, they blink, flash green lights. And then the little the network controllers or whatever they are, the fiber controller thingies, they get green lights coming on. But it never gets past that. It never the power supply fans never spin up. I never get all the pretty blue lights on the front. It just doesn't power on at all. So I am going to be looking at one of Jay's video where he does a tear down of that, and I'm going to probably tear it down. I'm going to take the backplane board out and give it a good look over and probably an ultrasonic clean, and then we'll just see what happens with that. But it's the thing that is extraordinary about it, and anyone else who has an Xserve RAID will know this as well. You take out the power supplies, you take out the cooling modules, you take out the fiber modules, you take out all the hard drives, and the thing still weighs a ton. I mean, it's just an empty shell, and it weighs so much. It's like there's nothing in this thing. So it is an amazing thing, and of course, given that this has 7 250 gig drives, it's not even 2 terabytes of storage.
That's plenty.
And the thing's as big as a house. I mean, it's massive. So it's a funny sort of a thing. I don't know what.
I have an idea actually, Bruce.
Okay. Yes.
I mean, you could set this up. Think of what you'd save in heating bills. You set this up in your little chicken coop, okay?
Yeah.
Use one of the USB cables as a little webcam, and then you could just store all these lovely images that you're going to capture of your little chucks there on the hard drives, and it'll warm up their little pen, and you'll be fine, right?
Yeah. No, that's an idea.
Problems with that. One, Xserves don't get that hot, and 2, it's chooks. Steve, come on.
I'm sorry.
No, those fans will keep it very nice and cool. Actually, in fact, I've had nothing but cold air blowing out.
I'm talking about the G5 one. Let the G5
one. Yeah, that's a little different. Yeah.
So, I mean, part of me kind of want now. Someone can explain this to me, because when I remember this Xserve RAID, we could only buy the hard drives from Apple. Apparently, if you just got a normal hard drive off the shelf and put it in those sleds, it didn't recognize it. It had to be an Apple one with Apple firmware on it. Did I imagine that, or did that change? Okay, all right, no worries, fair enough.
They are extremely picky with the drives they take.
Okay.
But they will use other drives. I think
they're all
only use up to 1 terabyte in each sled.
Yeah, that's pretty how that's
So in theory, if I manage to get hold of a whole stack of 1 terabyte drives, and then maybe see if I can find another 7 empty sleds or something like that, or maybe I can buy some off Jay because I know he has some extras.
Well, not only do you have to get the drives, but then you have to get the adapters to convert them from SATA to IDE.
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe I'll just find a huge stack of new old stock IDE drives or something. I don't know.
Or just, you could use a boat anchor.
Did they ever do 1 terabyte for IDE drives?
Oh yeah,
they stopped at 750.
No, I had a 1 terabyte IDE. Oh gosh, 2005, 2006. It came with an enclosure I got. So
okay.
So anyhow, we'll move now on to the Xserves themselves because they're a little bit more interesting than the RAID because, as I say, the RAID did nothing. The G5s are nodes. Now they're the dual 2.3 gigahertz models, but they're the node, which means that they have no output display capability whatsoever. And I thought, well, that's no problem. I've got display cards coming out of my ears, and they're all bloody AGP cards. None of them are PCI cards. So I went to go, I started just digging out all my display cards. It's like, AGP. And so I have, that one is now just sitting behind me here doing nothing because I need to get hold of a PCI display card.
Do you have a old 120 from a Mac Pro?
Actually, no.
what about a Rage?
Not going to work on a G5.
Sure. Oh, that's right. The G5. Never mind.
Yeah.
Rage 128.
Yeah, so I've got a Rage 128, but it's different.
Oh, it's the AGP.
Yeah, it's AGP.
It's the Australian version.
So anyhow, I need to do that before I can really do anything with this. But apparently, it all works beautifully. Even the drive in it works. But of course, because it is the Node version, and there's only one drive bay in there. But I am looking forward to getting that one up and running. And I may even, if we'll see what happens, I might even end up having it replace my current G5 that I have in here because the shape of this one I might be able to fit it in here a little bit better.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking with the G5 Xserve I have, Bruce. But I realized that a lot of applications that I try and run will look at the graphics card and go, no, you need Quartz Extreme capabilities to run that application, and it's like the simplest of application, but that's how it was coded.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I'll have to investigate that.
There is a, and I think I bought 2 of them because Grudy sent the link a few years ago. There was a 128 megabyte Radeon PCI card that was designed for the Xserve, I believe, and they were only like $20 or $30 a few years ago. And this seller had like a stack of them. I believe that's what the use case was. Okay. And I bought one. I didn't put in the Xserve yet because there's still a 128 in there.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, I will investigate that. But for the moment, the G5 is just sitting here, and will probably stay there for quite some time. The other Xserve that I got was the early 2008 model, which is, I think, is a 2.8 gigahertz Intel Xeon quad core something or other. I can't remember it exactly, but that one's a little bit more interesting. So that one's been I've been having a little bit of fun with that. So I went to go install a system on it. So first of all, it had 7 sticks of RAM, and of those 7, it would appear 3 of them are stuffed. So I've currently got 4 gigabytes of RAM in there, but it boots.
So how do you think your deal value situation is going here?
Well, it was all free, so
I thought you traded for recapping work.
Oh, sorry, no. Yes, I did trade, but that was the G5. So in actual fact, the Intel one I got for nothing. So, so that, apart from obviously a drive to go and get it and whatever road tolls and everything I encountered on the way, but I was catching up with people I haven't seen in a long time as well, so that was quite nice. But and so I booted that one up and went into Disk Utility. And it didn't see any of the drives. Just none at all. Just like no drives whatsoever. And since then, I have made the discovery that if you have the model with the internal RAID controller, you can apparently replace that RAID controller just with a standard SATA controller if you want to just do it that way. But this is the internal RAID controller. And if that is the case, Disk Utility won't recognize the drives individually. It will only recognize a RAID that has been set up by the RAID utility. So if you open up RAID Utility, it sees the drives. But if you open up Disk Utility, it doesn't see anything. So you have to actually have a RAID set up, and then and then Disk Utility will allow you to format it and use it. So and the other really annoying thing is that the RAID controller uses a 3.7 volt lithium polymer battery, which of course there's no way is good anymore. But thankfully they can be replaced. I mean, with another you can put the same size one in there, or you can even just get smaller ones. As long as they're 3.7 volt lithium polymer batteries, you can just pop them in there, which is what I'm going to do. Put a new one in there, and then that RAID controller will then work. What the main issue I have at the moment is there are 3 drives in there, but the lights are only on in 2, and so the lights aren't even on for the 3rd drive, and it doesn't recognize that 3rd drive at all. So I have to try and that's something else I have to try and fix as well. So anyhow, it's.
Sorry. I was going to say I have to jet out of here, so I will catch you guys later. Have a good rest of the show.
So Bruce, how many hours have you stuffed into this epic already?
It hasn't been too bad, really. I mean, probably I spent a lot of time yesterday going to pick it up because I was catching up with someone, but it hasn't actually been that bad. I spent a bit of time last night fiddling around with them, and just finding out exactly how much I didn't know about these things. But I have to say, I mean, they're quite an impressive machine. Like looking at the Xserve, they are, when you open them up and look inside them, and they're incredibly modular. You want to take something out it comes. I mean, I've got a whole spare logic board for the thing. So the guy who I got this from, he's someone who really liked to have a bit of redundancy in place. So he bought a spare logic board. He's got a spare fan cooling.
Imagine how much that logic board was, like brand new, like when those service parts came out. Like, oh
yeah, I have no idea, but it's it's in the original. Actually, I think there's some paperwork in there. I'll have to have a look. Oh. Yeah. Anyhow, it's it's been fun. I'm enjoying it. At the end of the day, once I get it all fixed and working, I'll probably install an operating system on it, have a little bit of a play, and then I'll put it away again. I intend to use Collins Patra and put High Sierra on it, and then just leave it at that.
So Jay, what do you do with your Xserves that you could advise Bruce to do with his? Or what did you do?
Not much. I use one Xserve. It's an Intel that's connected to the RAID, that fires up once a week on a schedule, stays on for a few hours, and every Mac in the house does a backup to the RAID. And then it powers down in the morning. That's all I currently use it for.
Oh, well, I suppose if you've got the space.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Yeah, you do.
Just put it on top of your shed. That's just, it catches all the rainwater that way.
But the last 24 hours since Bruce has gotten these things and started tinkering with it have been absolutely amazing for me. Because how long have I known you now, Bruce? 2 years?
About that, yeah.
Give or take, yeah. This was the first time I had an opportunity, and I took it. Believe me, I took it. To sound smarter than Bruce, and I had a blast.
Well, the priceless moment, really, I think, came when I started asking you questions about the RAID, and you were like, I've got videos and all this on my channel.
Just a few.
It's like, it's just so. Look, I just want to, be lazy about this. Can I just ask you instead?
Well, the interesting thing is, a friend of mine offered to give me his, I guess it was what do you call the one with the hard drives in it? That's the Xserve RAID, because I don't have one. But okay, he offered to give me one, provided that I would have to put discs in it and all that stuff. And his reason was his electricity bills were very, very high running this thing nonstop. And I was thinking, well, if I only turned them on, every so often, it wouldn't be that big deal. Then he sent me a picture of it. I'm like, oh my God, where am I going to put that thing? And so looking at that and then contemplating the prices for the drives and all that stuff. And I'm like, you know what? It's probably best I just like go out and like buy a pair of 4 terabyte externals and shove them into the Mac Pro server that's already on, and just deal with that. But I mean, well, as much as I love having the Intel Xserve and the Xserve G5, and they are doing a similar thing like Jay, they turn on, they do a backup, and they shut off periodically. But
I mean, they serve no practical use. I mean, I can go to Amazon or anywhere and get a 14 terabyte external that is faster, probably outlast the RAID, and takes up a hell of a lot less space. But you get these things because you feel like, huh?
It doesn't have the little blue lights.
I know.
Blue lights.
But it's in the basement. I don't get to see it anyway.
I mean, I was watching the video that you posted into our group chat, Jay, from Linus about his kind of epic data failure.
Yeah.
Which was very interesting. And then, more importantly, him setting up a new RAID. And he's setting that up in one of these great big rack-mounted, units. I don't know what they call them. That holds, I think, 20 discs, something like that, or is it
40,
more?
40 something.
Yeah. And he's filling them up with 20 terabyte drives. So he's just got this stack of individual 20 terabyte drives.
Okay, can I just get to?
Yeah, I mean. It was essentially $35,000 worth of hard drives, and then putting that into a big rack mount thing that holds them all, and it just extraordinary stuff, because I mean he keeps he does a lot of content, and then they keep every single bit of that content in a high res version. So the amount of storage they've got is just he was actually saying that if he was to use Backblaze to back that stuff up off-site, it would cost him about $10,000 a month in subscription with Backblaze. And we know Backblaze is one of the cheapest out there. So
and all the protections that he has from whatever RAID or NAS system he's running, with all the built-in checks and protections, of course, we have none of that on the Xserve RAID. You'll find out a drive is dead because you happen to walk past and you see a red light. So, ooh, I guess I should replace that.
It can email you, can't it? I'm pretty sure the RAID can send you an email. I think
never really worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I going to piggyback on this just briefly, because I had some excitement with my RAID over the last few days, and so I have this Synology NAS, which I think I got in 2011, and I upgraded the discs probably in 2014 or 2015 to 4 terabyte drives, and my goodness, did that cost a pretty penny. Not a cheap purchase at the time, but I just had a new job, my rent wasn't too high, and I was able to somehow afford it. And that's been going strong since then. Unfortunately, I had the bright idea when I was moving my streaming desk downstairs to let's shut it down gracefully, and then I'll put it on the side of the room. I'll move my desk around, and then I'll actually build a little spot to put it in. And so I built a little spot to put it in, and I put everything back in. And I'm all excited, and I route the cables. I did all the twist ties, and I plug it in. And then after it warms up, you just hear beep, beep, beep. And I'm like, oh my crap. And you go to log in, and it's like, disk 1 is not happy. And what had happened is, because they use very proprietary long screws in this silly thing, the screw was not there. I had lost it. And so the drive just sort of came out of the sled. And I thought, this is the first time that's happened. I'll just slide it back in, reboot it. Nope. It did not like that. And so I thought, well, I had a partial backup. Most of the stuff on here is just music and movies and stuff. Nothing irreplaceable. All the important stuff was backed up. So I clicked on the videos folder, and I'm doing a sync of it. And it was just taking ages because of, its state. And doing that, while that was going on, it crashed another volume. So Disk 1 and Disk 4 are hosed. Thankfully, there is protection of the loss of 2 disks in this Synology setup that I had. So I will not be replacing the drives anytime soon, because I have a Mac Studio coming my way. I can't afford both things. That was a bit of a when it rains it pours moment type thing, because I'll just back up all the data. Oh, there goes the other disk. And you read so much about that happening, and it's really funny because everybody I spoke to before I purchased this NAS like ages ago, who I don't even speak to anymore, were all like, no, that won't happen. You don't have to have these redundancies. When one fails, you just copy it over. And yeah, no, that that happens. And it was just as happy as the other disc. It just beeped and yelled at me, and I'm like, oh, this is great. So yeah, fun
and
times.
You've been carbon copy cloning for 3 days now, 4 days.
Yeah, so I was using Carbon Copy Cloner, which, to its credit, it examines a file, but it takes its sweet time on a situation like this where that NAS wasn't always fast anyway. I'm using the Western Digital green drives, and it's not the the fastest thing, but Carbon Copy Cloner was looking at these 25 gig DV files from when I was archiving VHS tapes, and it was just like crawling examining these. So thankfully, I had the date that I did the previous backup for, and there were only a handful of folders in that whole video directory that I knew were not backed up. So I just stopped that and I did it manually. But yeah, not fun. Back up your crap. And
well, if these have been running nonstop.
It was not actually. What I was pretty good about turning it off when a bad storm would come on, and then I'd forget to turn it on because this was before I had the UPS set up with it, and that's how I discovered the USB controller in this was bad. And so I used to have an 8 terabyte external plugged into this NAS, and it was only USB 2, and it took forever, but it backed up everything. And then something happened, and the USB chip fried on the NAS, and so not even an external drive or the USB to serial cable for the UPS redundant power thing would even be read by it. So I'm like, what the heck is going on here? And so, yeah, that was a whole bunch of fun figuring that out, because, this is like proprietary software, and you're going through all these forums. People are like, oh, if you root it, you could do this with Linux. And I'm like, oh, before I knew Sean. Otherwise, I would have bugged him. But
yeah, I love Western Digital green drives. Yes, they're slower than their blue or black counterparts, but they run cool and they last forever. The problem is they don't fail gradually. Like, oh, we have some pending sectors that need to be remapped, or there's some. No, they just die instantly and they will never come back.
I'm gonna see if I have the picture I took of the graph, because it was the bad sector count on the failed drive, and it was like beep, 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 burn. It's just a huge spike when the disk failed.
Yeah, they fail spectacularly, but I love them. I use a lot of green drives.
Yeah, I had one in my 2011 iMac, and it's still going. I think last I turned it on. I think whatever that disk utility you turned me on to, Jay, I tried that, and it was like red flags, like it's towards the end of its life. I'm like, okay, maybe I won't turn this on anymore, until I have a way to get all the crap out of there. But that was a totally off the rails thing. Sorry, but yeah.
It's okay. I forgot what we were talking about.
Well, I think at this stage we need to get into a little bit of House of Moth rage, don't you reckon? Is it time for some House of Moth?
Calm down a little.
Impossible, you say, sir.
Okay.
So tell us your story.
So it's not my story. This is a story from a woman named Karen, and Karen and I do not get along, and there's a good reason for that. Karen is, how did that happen? Yeah, there we go. Is a writer for Macworld. And as we all know, unfortunately, Macworld hasn't been the publication it used to be, but it's getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And I just wanted to bring up this example, and I'm not going to read the whole thing. I will put a link in the chat here, so you can read along or read it later. But basically, this is a hate parade on secondhand or used Macs. Why you should not buy them, and why you are making a huge mistake if you do. And we'll just take a...
My whole life, I've been doing something wrong.
Yeah, well, God, I'm glad someone told me now. I mean, far out.
Yeah. And I'm just going to read the headlines, and I want you guys' opinion on it. She follows a couple of Facebook groups for Apple users. Weird. I'm in all of them. She's not. But yeah. the problem is old Macs aren't secure. Okay, and is basically going off of what Apple says a machine can run, which we all know can easily be upgraded with OpenCore or DOS-Dude Patcher. So if you think my Mac is not secure because I'm running High Sierra, just upgrade it to something else. That's easy enough, though, right?
Unless you can't. I can't put anything higher than High Sierra on my 2008 Xserve.
I didn't have to put Windows on there or Chromium.
No, but if you claim to be in a bunch of Facebook groups with Apple users, you will hear the term OpenCore or DOS-Dude Patcher at least once a day, unless you're really actively trying to not pay attention. So, yeah, old Macs can be plenty secure. And even the newest Macs with Monterey on it are not as secure as you think they are, because just look next month at the 55,000 security fixes they're going to put in the next update.
I mean, I will say, I was skimming through this article, Jay, that some of the points this individual is making, if you are completely illiterate with computers, you would read this article and go, oh, yeah, no, I can't. I got to follow this. If you are any inkling of an enthusiast, you're going to read this and go, what?
Yeah. So I'm not taking this out on Karen or on Mac. Actually, yes, I am.
I'm taking it out on Mac.
I mean, the other thing that's important to remember is that while there may be security risks associated with some of these older operating systems, there are steps you can take to improve your security, under those circumstances. I mean, I guess it depends what you're doing. But yeah, I mean, I am using older operating systems here, and I still feel relatively secure with the way I've set them up. But maybe I'm just.
Oh, point number 2, and I'm just like I said, I'm just going off the headlines. You can read the article. I thought this one was hilarious. A lack of parts will make fixes difficult. Now, tell me what's easier to find: a backplane board for a 2012 Mac Pro, or a new solid-state drive for a 2019 MacBook Pro?
Yeah,
I think the problem here is them going through Apple's official channels again, which they're not going to touch anyway because it's obsolete. So,
I mean, I have a computer
exactly, Trina.
I have a computer that's here at the moment that I cannot repair because it is too new. I don't have there isn't the availability of the parts, whereas if it was a couple of years older, it would be fixed by now.
Yeah.
So that is just absolute horse hockey.
Karen has never heard of eBay, iFixit, or any of the millions of them.
Yeah. Why is this a rant video, Jay? Why aren't you recording this?
Because it would not be pretty. I have to write it down, have my wife proofread it, and when she says, "Dude, you can't be an asshole like this," then I have to revisit.
No, you have to do what I did with the iMac G3 rant video. You stay up till about 4 a.m.
No. I'm not going to sit here all night scripting it out. I'm not going to do that.
No, I didn't script anything out. That's why I was slapping myself in the face.
Oh, right, is that what?
I mean, I know you guys are the same, but the very newest Mac I have in this house is 2013. I have nothing in here newer than 2013. So, I mean, and I use nothing but Mac. So anyhow, let's continue.
There won't be adequate software support. I just put Big Sur on a 2010 17-inch MacBook Pro, and I can run the latest Adobe or anything I want. So OpenCore or DOS-Dude Patcher, this whole point is just as stupid as the first one.
Yeah, but see, that thing about features, using the new features, I mean, so many of those new features are just
gimmicks.
They're very nice.
Yeah, gimmicks.
Yeah,
that's I mean, I like the idea of some of the things like the turning your iPad into a second display, that sort of stuff. Okay, I get that there's sort of a functional advantage and stuff like that, but so many of those features are just sort of gimmicks. And if you are someone that uses your computer to work, those features don't make any difference at all. I mean, they really don't. I mean, that's just, that to me is just silly.
I mean, yes, we all extend the lives of these machines as power users and tech savvy people, but my father still uses a 2007 iMac, and yeah, once in a while the website won't load and you have to use a different browser. But I mean, really? I mean, yes, there are problems with software not being supported on these machines, but just because you can't run the latest and greatest software doesn't mean you can't still use that machine
Right.
with the
And according
software.
to Karen, your father is now getting hacked 4 times a day. And will never run any kind of software ever again.
Of course he is. You know, him and his 2CX, he's really got to watch out.
So performance will be disappointing.
I love the last 2 lines of this.
Is the next point. An old Mac is likely to be unreliable. Bullshit. Expect unexpected shutdowns and crashes to plague your day. What are you running?
Where is she getting her information from?
Dude, and you're texting the group last night, tinkering with your RAID, and I was completely oblivious because I was sitting here typing, foaming at the mouth. Damn you.
I will say when my Mac Pros, the older 2009 one I have downstairs that I stream from, and this one, when they freeze or like lock up completely, I take notice because it does not happen often. The one downstairs just did that the other day, and I'm like, "You serious? Did you lock up?" And it was just after it copied like a terabyte of information. So I'm like, "Okay, well, at least it happened afterwards, you know." And I had to hold down the power button, shut it down. But it's like, it's not happening as frequently as a Windows 7 machine or something like that.
The 3 main computers I use are the Mac Pro that I'm using now, the 2012 Mini. I mean, I've got servers over here, but the 2012 Mini that I have down in the workshop, and then my main laptop, which is a 2012 MacBook Pro 15-inch. Now, admittedly, the 2012 did tell me it had a problem the other day by weird things happening on the screen, and I'm glad it did tell me there was something wrong with it, because I took it down to the workshop and opened it up, and it was full of little critters. And it required a little bit of work to get that working again, but that wasn't because of the age of the computer. That was because of critters. But none of these computers have unexpected shutdowns. I mean, as you say, Steve, if I had an unexpected shutdown or crashes plaguing my day, there's something wrong. I mean, this Mac Pro is just, I mean, it never crashes. Crazy.
Yeah. So we agree. She's full of it. The money you spend on upgrading an old Mac would be better spent on something newer. Yeah.
I will say you have to be careful about dumping money into old machines. Like, I'm having this issue with the GPU on this thing. I could easily go out and spend money on a GPU, but I made the conscious decision that, hey, look, I'm going to hold out for something newer. Maybe I'll put that few $100s towards something else. But that's, for someone else to make a decision on.
It's also... I mean, she wrote this a few days ago, right? 2022. The economy everywhere is shit. People have lost their jobs, lost their savings, lost everything over the last few years. And you're going to write this kind of garbage just so you can get clicks on your affiliate links, instead of telling the truth and write a balanced article that says, hey, if you are currently living under a bridge or about to, yes, a $200 2012 MacBook Pro will get everything done for you with just an SSD. But no,
I just fixed a friend's 2010 or 2011 or 2012 MacBook Pro, and it had a spinner hard disk in it. All I did was clone it and put on an SSD, upgraded the memory for under $200. It was like brand freaking new. They were so excited. They didn't want to have to dump $1,500 on a new laptop. Who could afford that?
Well, this is the thing. I had someone come to me, an old school friend, to come to me a while ago. Who was having his daughter's laptop was having some troubles, so he brought it to me, and it's obviously a Mac. This way, brought it to me, and I said, "Look, we don't want to go crazy on this thing. But, if you double the RAM and replace the original spinner hard drive with an SSD, it's only going to set you back a couple of $100, and this laptop will get a whole new lease on life." And we did that, and it's a hell of a lot cheaper than buying a new one. And that computer flew after that. I mean, it was just a whole new Mac to use. So giving it back to that person who'd been using it for all that time, they suddenly feel like they've got a brand new computer because it's running so well. Yeah. And that is okay. Yes, you do have to think to yourself, You don't want to overcapitalize on vintage computers, but with something like that, where I can confidently say to that person that computer's still got plenty of years life left in it. You do this, you'll easily get a couple more years out of it before you might be looking to buy another one. And for a couple $100, that's not bad at all.
None of us are saying these things would stand the test of time for the next decade without continual upgrades. And yes, there will obviously be a point where you can't upgrade these any longer, and they'll be stuck with whatever the latest software you could run on them. But that's still much better, like Bruce is saying, to put a little bit of investment in this than people who can't afford a $700 Mac Mini or $1,000 MacBook Air or whatever it is. There's options out there, and with the amount of machines that are just being sent to e-waste because a hard drive died, or it's a bit scuffed up where the office can't use it on their latest software anymore.
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
Yeah. No,
last but not least, it will be Intel. Blah. The M1 is out. Intel is suddenly useless. That whole chestnut.
Wait, my hold on.
So let's
is
say,
it just me, or did the M1 only come out like yesterday? I mean, I sort of feel like this is such recent history.
Yeah, and even let's say Monterey, the current operating system, Monterey is the last one to work on Intel. I don't think it will. I think the next OS will still be Intel as well. But let's say Monterey, that's it. That's still 3 more years of support and updates.
But Apple still sell Intel computers today.
Yeah.
Right now, this minute, brand new computer, Intel, which kind of makes this 0.5 seem rather stupid.
0.5 is exactly like 0.3. They just wanted to hit their word quota, so Macworld would pay them this month. That's all this is for.
And there are better ways to save money. Don't spend $200 on a computer and another $100 on good upgrades. No. Click our affiliate links and spend $1,200. So I put the link in the chat. I'll put it in the description as well. And I'm currently writing a salty rant that I'm going to put on my website.
I want to just do one of those videos. Like I'm getting that itch now, Jay, like I did with the iMac G3, where I'm starting to, my hands are twitching and I'm foaming out the mouth a little bit because it's like, no, I mean, come on, this.
My problem is this was written in Macworld. Once upon a time, a good publication, and a lot of people look to Macworld and other such websites for advice. For example, my dad, well, not fair because I do his tech support, but let's say my mom, right? She doesn't know anything about Mac. If something breaks, I'm the one that fixes it. I try to teach her. She doesn't care. She just wants to check her emails and play her Facebook games. She will read something like this and say, oh, I need a new computer. Mine is an Intel iMac. Or they don't know any better because this article is not balanced at all. And that's what pisses me off. You are a big name in the industry and you're just lying to people. You're just telling them complete nonsense.
This is a perfect opportunity for MacYak to come out there and say, no, here's a rebuttal. Print that, Macworld. And for Macworld to go, no.
Yeah, and just to follow up real quick, check this out. I think I should be able to find it. Yes. In November 2020, Karen showed up on my radar as well, basically saying that Apple screwed over everybody, every Mac user that had a Mac with 128 gig storage.
Oh, I remember this.
The argument was that Monterey or Big Sur at the time was 12 gigabytes, and you needed 30 gigs on top of that for the update to do its thing, the installer. And it was a rant and a half of why Apple screwed over people instead of her just saying, I should have backed up some stuff, made some space, and I would have been fine. So this is the second time I have to deal with this woman, and it's not been good. So chances are that the next time it's not going to be great either.
The blame on that goes to Apple for shipping a 128 gig SSD for so long. Look at the freaking Mac Studio. It has a 512 gig in there. That's supposed to be a Pro machine. Apple's done this
along with those models. They sold 256 and 512 models as well. Her cheap ass didn't buy it.
Also also the problem is Apple has always been stingy with the memory or the hard disk space. They are always using something that's years, have gone by that nobody else is offering that stuff except the bargain bin of the cheapest stuff because they can get away with it.
Here's a really interesting thing about looking at those two articles. So ultimately, in the first article, Karen is complaining about the situation with the 128 gigabyte drive and that the operating system requires more space. You got to update your hardware. And this is the thing that we have talked about many times on this show. Apple is a hardware company. They give you free software, and every time you upgrade that software, you are one step closer to your machine becoming obsolete. They force that obsolescence on you by giving you all of this free software so that you will then buy their hardware. It's the way they work. That's just how it is, so they're not selling the software, they're selling the hardware. And you just need to remember this company has made an awful lot of money. It's one of the wealthiest companies in the world, and it has done it by selling us hardware. And that's just how you have to look at it. You can complain about it if you want, but that's just how they are. Now, what we do, us as MacYak and lots of people that watch our show as well, is we find ways of making that old hardware work for longer so that you don't then get sucked into this having to buy new stuff all the time. And then, in the first one is her complaining about the way Apple works in doing that. And in the second article, it's her saying, buy new Apple stuff. And I just sort of feel like it's very hypocritical of her to, to do it. Well, or is she? I mean, did the first article tell you to buy new computers as well? I mean, maybe that's just the whole way.
I don't remember. I just know that, like yesterday, I was foaming at the mouth when I was reading it, and I had to do a rant. And the problem with rants is that it makes the person doing the rant look like, oh, I know better than this person.
Well,
but
you
have to. But you do in this instance.
You have to look at this person's profile. They've been a Macworld editor since 2008 and previously worked at Apple's PR agency.
So I think the entire bio and the intro of her article is all nonsense, unless you're really that stupid. And I looked for her in all the groups because I was going to send her a message in private. I'm not going to troll her in public. Say, hey, can you explain your reasoning behind writing this?
Why didn't you email them? Your email address is right there.
Emails can be ignored. At least if I find her in one of the groups.
Social media posts.
For an article like this, you need to be at the very least in low-end Mac, and Mac Pro Upgrade or the other Mac Pro group. Those are the biggest Apple groups, unless there is an official Apple group where all they do is talk about how great the latest hardware is.
Yes, that's called Macworld. That's the group.
Yeah. So
I think all of our target audience here would agree that this type of an article is very much skewed to one side of a viewpoint. And I would love to have a counter balanced video to that, but I don't want to knock the wind out of Jay's sails. So I will.
No, I'm going to write it either way. I just want you to do the video so I can see you slap yourself at 4 a.m. again.
That sounds like fun. I have nothing better to do. Let's do it.
You're better on video. I'm not good on camera. Whether it's a live stream, pre-recorded, whatever. I'm good at writing.
Everyone wave, because I'll include this clip on the. Everyone look at the camera and wave. Numbers. All right, so then the idiot at MacYak, and then I cut to this.
Okay.
For some reason, I don't know how to wave without making a silly face, but I'm sorry about that. So
that's an Australian thing, I think. All right, so we have 10 more minutes left here, and we have an article here. Basically, surprise, surprise, Apple's M1 Studio Ultra, whatever the heck, the benchmarks aren't quite living up to Apple's very delicately prepared slides, which is of really no surprise to anyone, I'm sure.
No, there is no way that a GPU integrated in that little M1 Ultra chip is going to outperform a great big GPU, sort of like with like 4 fans on the bloody thing, latest technology. It's just not going to happen.
I just wonder why Apple went so overboard on this. They knew within a week that whole thing would fall apart, and
well, strictly speaking, it hasn't fallen apart. The tests that they did and the results they got are real. They are.
I would
legitimate.
expect a test like that with these sneaky little graphs from Karen, not from Apple on stage.
But they are definitely, they perform well under certain tests that they use. And of course, the really, really important thing, and this is extremely important when it comes to mobile devices, is that they absolutely and totally slam those other GPUs in terms of power, power versus performance, so the power consumption. So if we're talking about you having one of these in a laptop, yes, okay, these things are going to do way better, because if you had a GPU like that in a laptop, you would switch it on, the battery would be flat in about 5 seconds. So, it definitely does have that power performance ratio thing working out well, and they're the sorts of tests that Apple do, and then their GPU shines because it's not consuming as much power and all that sort of stuff. So, I don't sort of feel like they have fed us any fake data. They've just fed us very selective data,
which Apple's always done. And by looking at this graphics card, I don't know too much about these graphics cards, but a quick search shows them going between $1,500 and $2,000 just for this graphics card alone. Now, yes, if there's a mobile version of that or whatever, that's probably not factored in here, but that's an expensive freaking card. And in my position, which I will say I bought that Mac Studio, do I really want it to beat that thing? I personally don't care. Is it going to do what I need to do? Then yes. If it can't do exactly what that one is doing, and I'm going to be upset? No. But I think the problem is that a lot of people see benchmarks and they go, it's better than that thing. And that's the only reason why they want something, because they want to best something. They want to say mine is faster or this or that. And I think that culture of always wanting like the best and the fastest and the newest and that's kind of, completely separate how most
you
of
saw
us...
the Facebook groups. As soon as the keynote was done, everybody was talking about the Studio pitted versus a Mac Pro, 60% faster. Spoiler alert, in reality, it's actually 40% slower than a Mac Pro. But
I think it's once again, it comes down to the selectivity of those benchmarks that they run, and people maybe are feeling deceived by that. But as we've said, Apple have done this many times before. That when they want to sell something to you, they will sell you they will show you the information that they want to show you.
Yeah, and of course, it's an impressive machine. It's still gonna kick our classic Mac Pro's ass and do everything that we cannot currently do on this hardware in a reasonable amount of time. Blah blah blah. But
that's fine.
You have people all excited because, like Steve said, a lot of people, Mac Pros and older Macs have been for sale nonstop on the Facebook groups now. Oh, I just ordered a Studio. I'm selling my Pro because it's worthless now, and it even beats the new Mac Pro. And I commented on all those posts saying, wait a week, 2 weeks, whenever the real world reviews start coming out, you'll see what it's actually capable of, and if it actually makes sense to spend $3,000 on the thing, well, you might not even have to. And of course, nobody did. Everybody started selling, and new shiny, I want it. And now the actual results are in, and it's not as impressive as people thought it was.
I will say what's nice about looking at some of these benchmarks is showing that the Studio with the same Max chip that's in the 16-inch MacBook Pro is actually performing a little bit better. You're getting a few more frames per second. You're getting a few thousand more marks on whatever these compute scores are and whatever those numbers mean. Thank you very much, Mike. Eep! PowerPC forever. So yeah, I mean, with these types of results, that's nice to see, because it's like, okay, the chip in the desktop is a little bit clocked or cooled or whatever, faster or better, that is making this machine a bit better than the laptops, because it's no secret that I've been looking to get a new machine for some period of time, ever since they announced the Mac Mini in 2020. But I was like, nope, I don't want the first one of these chips. I've been burned like that before. Let's see what happens. And thankfully, everyone who uses these things agrees that these machines are screamers. You know, whether you have an M1, an M1 Max, a Pro, Ultra, Super Duper, Super Duper, whatever they're called, they're great machines, and that's fine. I would have been probably so happy with the performance of just a standard M1 Mini, but the studio was like, okay, well, that I feel like purchasing that with a bit of more power than I need right now, that's going to last me a little bit longer, because the Mac Mini is, you know, it's either 8 gigs or 16 gigs. This has 32 in it. That's going to be plenty for me. You know, I'm just trying to look at it from that perspective. But if you look at it from the perspective of, no, I need to beat the RX 3000 whatever barbecue, you know, graphics card.
Barbecue, huh?
Yeah, I mean, that's the special Bitcoin edition. Once you burn through the card, you could, you know, have some barbecue on there. So
got it.
I've just posted a link into the Geekbench scores of the M1 Ultra if anyone wants to have a look at that and look at it neck and neck with some other computers. I mean, certainly if I was to compare it to, you know, my Mac Pro, yes, it's faster. Much.
We are not comparing it to a decade-old computer.
We can if we want to.
We don't want to.
Well, see,
that's depressing.
That's the thing. If we compare this to our current machines, of course, it's going to blow it out of the water. If we compare this to the newest Mac Pro, which none of us could afford, it's going to compare pretty darn well, even if it's not going to best it in all of the configurations and all the scores and everything. It's going to do pretty darn well, I think.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I didn't put this topic in like, hey, look at that, you're an idiot for buying a studio. It's more about Apple's, and you can call it clever, I call it shady AF. You know, as they knock the Mac Pro in that presentation, piss off all the customers that spend between 20 and 50 G's on one of those things, and then say, oh, it's so slow. Look, this tiny thing does better. And then, you know, it's shady. I don't know.
Like Bruce said, they're a hardware company. They want to sell you the new hardware, even if they piss off the people that dumped $60,000 on a Mac Pro like last month, you know? So
yeah. Shady. And I think you should do 2 rant videos on this.
I'm trying to find, I'm probably doing exactly what Bruce is doing. I'm trying to find a Mac Pro 2019 in Geekbench to compare it to, but all the search results coming up with is MacBook Pro.
If you check that video, it's like, yeah, Geekbench is specifically tailored to, you know, blah, blah. Great. It's a good score. But I think he used DaVinci or some kind of software that is optimized for Intel and optimized for whatever the new thing is. And the Intel smoked the Ultra. This is actual software. I mean, a professional company is like, yes, we just bought 20 of those things, and our business is running Geekbench all day long. Nobody does that. They run.
Software did they use, Jay? I'm trying to look it up in the article.
What
software were they using? I was trying to look it up.
It's in the video. I forgot. But actual real world use with actual software that people use to make money. No, a 28 core Mac Pro is going to smoke this thing, and as it should.
Yeah,
you can put a graphics card into a Mac Pro that you could never, even with eGPU, if they support it by now, wouldn't be as powerful on a studio.
So I've just compared. I've just opened this up in the Geekbench here using. Actually, I can even put a link on this,
or you can share the screen. Hey.
Oh, I can do.
We're going a bit long tonight. We have a lot of rants to get out.
We have technology here.
Rants pouring out of my ears.
Okay, so I will share the screen. I'll just get this. So this is the comparison here, and we will just add that there. Add to screen. So as you can see, this is looking at the late 2019. So this is a 2.5 gigahertz, 28 cores, 56 threads, blah, 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 blah. And it's getting a Geekbench 5 score of for single CPU. What is that? What is that? It's with the number. Here we go. Single core. You're looking at. Where's the number? Is it okay? Where's the actual number? Never mind. The chart's different, as you can see. So you've got the core score 2893 versus 24055, 1108 versus 1793. So, in these sorts of tests, on a Geekbench test, yes, the Studio is definitely faster CPU speed for this. So, I mean, so Apple aren't lying to us, but we do know that in certain circumstances, that great big Mac Pro is going to outperform that teeny weeny little Studio. That's we just know it is. But anyhow,
I will say, because I'm looking at some of the Final Cut exports that, and I'm going to share my screen if you don't mind, Bruce.
Yeah.
Let me do that.
I'm share mine too.
Oh, that's the wrong screen. Hold on. There we go. So here's one of the sections from that video. Hey, look, we're live. So Final Cut here is exporting whatever project for, I don't know what the spec is. I looked in their video description. They have no details of the spec, so maybe I have to actually watch the darn video. I don't know if they actually detailed the specs of the Pro. But the Mac Pro exports this project, whatever it is, in 3 minutes. And the Mac Ultra, which I guess it's the Ultra one, I don't know if it's the Max or whatever, exports it in 4.5 or 440. So, okay, that's obviously the Pro is doing better than that, but those are not wimpy numbers for a desktop.
Yeah. But if you put this against our 2012 Mac Pros, that might take 6 or 7 minutes. That's also not bad. I mean, we don't do this for a living. We can easily wait 5, 6, 7 minutes for an export.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But the what was I gonna say? The real world use is you would have to do a 20-hour video to do a proper comparison of everything.
Well, guess what I'm doing next week?
Yeah, right. Because with OpenCore, I have hardware acceleration on my RX 580, I think I have, graphics card, and it's flying. It renders everything on the fly. I'm never waiting for anything. If I do H.264, if I import the iPhone format, the HECV VC or something, I'm sitting here half an hour waiting for it to render. So it all depends on what you're working with and what the strengths of the hardware are. Because yes, the M1 and the Max and the Ultra, they're all tailored specifically to be really good at certain things. But that doesn't mean that Adobe is going to fly. That might be just as slow as it is on your 2014 iMac. So,
yeah, I mean, it's all relative to what you're using, and
that's the word, relative.
I think, look, I could edit DV footage on a G4 or a G3. I could do that because I'm using the period appropriate, video project software and the codec for that machine, and it's going to do well. Anything that Jay and I and Bruce and anybody else who's using these 2012 cheese grater Mac Pros are thrown at this, these machines are handling surprisingly well, given the hardware and software modifications that are completely unsupported that we've been shoving into these things.
Oh yeah.
And I personally was at a breaking point if I didn't want to deal with that anymore. And I said, look, I was going to get a new laptop, and then that eventually said, oh, you know what, I'll get a new desktop, and this is around 2019, 2020. I said, all right, well, if they come out with a standalone desktop that's better than the Mac Mini, and that doesn't cost as much as the Mac Pro, maybe I'll look into it, and that's where we are. So I look forward to doing a lot of stupid tests on this thing that your Luke whatevers and your, all these YouTube fancy people who have, had this thing for a week or two already have not looked at doing, because
I
want to
start a poll on your channel now. Say, hey, suggestions for comparisons and tests.
We got time. Mine's not shipping until mid-April, unfortunately. So
unless it comes earlier, you never know.
Might be on your doorstep right now.
Everyone cancel them now. Cancel your order so I get mine first.
I am really looking forward to seeing that video when it comes out, Steve. But you know what I'm looking forward to even more? I'm looking forward to the stream you're going to do after this show with that Mac 2.
Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to that.
But Justin's streaming. I can't go over him. So
He just started streaming now, didn't he?
Yeah.
So while we're live,
he's already overlapped on top of us. So
forget him.
Maybe after dinner. We'll see. So that was our rant-filled episode. Anybody else want to add anything before?
I feel better, man. When you feel a rant, and it's a very distinct feeling, you'll know it. It's not like, ooh, I have to go to the bathroom, or I have to sneeze. A rant is a very specific feeling, and when you feel it, you'll know, and you need to let it out because you'll feel better.
Mac rant,
Mac rants.
So
586.
they were good rants today, and the chat were all behind us as well. So yeah.
Well, the chat has been talking about Star Wars for like an hour.
I know. That's Star Wars, Doctor Who.
We're very entertaining. That's fine.
If we do a pop quiz right now, say, "Hey, David Starbuck, what did we talk about as second topic?" Picard. Nobody was listening. Nobody.
You don't get the answer. You can't leave. Wait, where are all subscribers going? No, wait, stop.
Oh man, now I feel bad.
Oh, okay. We'll wrap it up. And also,
we keep going for another hour. See how long it's going to run that back.
We have 32 viewers. I mean, this is kind of a good spot for us. But
so, Justin, is Justin a mod in here? He is not. Let me put a link in to Justin's channel.
Yes,
so everyone without coffee or pee breaks head straight over
there. Justin does some great live streaming. So if you want to see him tinkering around with whatever he's doing today, I didn't see. Exactly.
Yeah, what is he doing today? What are you doing today, Justin?
Yeah, tell us what you're doing. We'll plug the heck out of you. You get 35 hot subscribers coming right to you.
And we're all going to rant on your channel.
He's recapping a Mac 2 Ci.
Oh, Mac content.
I like those.
All right.
Those. So, and probably, and just to forewarn you, Justin, and probably repairing the startup circuit as well.
Yes. Those 4 capacitors next to those 3 chips by the power supply. Delicious. So there's the link to Justin's will be put in at the same time for Justin's video. Please go on there. He has the little scrolling thing that says waiting for MacYak to end under it. So we will release everybody. We do have a Discord server, yada yada yada. There's a banner somewhere. I mean, if you're not
somewhere.
Yeah, there it is.
I'm supposed to be producing, I know, or someone. Yeah, okay.
You're busy with the Xserve. So we do have a Discord server. If Discord's your thing, hop on it. If it's not, you'll just be like Prada there and fall right off. But we also have a website. Jay might post a rant there, but it might be too hot for that site. So
I might have to put it on my own site. But I forgot. Sorry, one more thing. I forgot to bring this up for an hour and a half because I was so busy ranting. But if there was any doubt,
it's Bondi.
Had to throw that in.
Go to Tinker Different, argue the pronunciation of Bondi versus Bondi.
There's no argument.
Make sure you do that. And I guess we'll catch you later next time. But thank you for hanging out with MacYak. And
see you all at Justin's stream.
St. Patrick's Day. See you at Justin's, and bye.
Is someone ready to press the button?
I'm going to the thing. Where's the thing? Yeah. Hold on. You got it, or I got it?
Anyone can do it.
Okay. Bye.
Yeah.